Former Trump campaign chairman Paul Manafort was reportedly seeking a deal in his upcoming trial. The Wall Street Journal reporting tonight that while jurors in Virginia were deliberating tax and bank fraud charges, Manafort's defense team was trying to work out an agreement with prosecutors in his second trial that is slated to begin here in Washington, D.C. next month. Journal reports the talks stalled after the special counsel Robert Mueller raised issues with the potential deal. Out front now, John Dean, a former Nixon White House counsel, and Shan Wu, he's former lawyer for Rick Gates and a former federal prosecutor. John, if I could begin with you, what does it tell you that Manafort's defense team was trying to cut a deal in Washington while the jurors in his first trial were still deliberating his fate? Is that significant in your view?
Well, I think the timing tells us something. At the time they were discussing this, they had a little more swagger in their step. They felt strongly about their case in Virginia, and I'm sure that the defendant feels the pressure of the expense of these trials. It's probably a seven-figure trial that he just went through in Virginia, and that's what he's facing in the District of Columbia. So doing a deal would have been a very intelligent and cost-saving move but I think probably the prosecutors said, we want some cooperation, and couldn't get any, and that's when the discussions broke off.
Would that, Shan Wu, be the likely reason? And again, this is reading tea leaves here, I'll admit that, but if it was the special counsel, as the Wall Street Journal reported, that raised issues about a deal or in effect blocked the deal, would that be because a lack of cooperation?
It could be, and it may be that, as John was saying, in those moments while the jury was still out, it's kind of like the moment before the roulette wheel stops spinning. Everyone feels they have some leverage at that point. And it could be that the special counsel was reacting to the Manafort team not wanting to give too much or wanting certain sort of advantages that they weren't willing to give. Usually, they need to have some serious discussions and proffers to see if the defendant can give them something of value. They'd be in a little bit of a time crunch there, so I'm not sure they would have had time to really ascertain how valuable Manafort's cooperation could be if that was the sticking point.
Now, John, of course, we should note or remind that the trial, both these trials deal with campaign issues, financial fraud issues, tax issues that predate Manafort's work for the Trump campaign. Would we presume that Robert Mueller, if he was seeking cooperation, would want cooperation on the other Russia-related issues that he is investigating? Or would it be simply cooperation or a guilty plea on those financial crimes?
Well, it's hard to know, of course. We are just trying to glean what we can from the ethers, and I would think they probably would have wanted a little cooperation on Russia to at least crack that door if they could, to see if they could get an opening at all. So far, Manafort, as we know, has been refusing to give any cooperation. So we don't know if he's afraid of some oligarch or if he's holding out for a pardon or what his thinking is. But he's certainly taking a torturous route.
Sean, as you know, President Trump praised Manafort, this remarkably even after he was convicted. A reminder as to what he said.
Paul Manafort's a good man. He was with Ronald Reagan. He was with a lot of different people over the years, and I feel very sad about that. It doesn't involve me, but I still feel, it's a very sad thing that happened. I feel very badly for Paul Manafort.
One of the reasons I respect Paul Manafort so much is he went through that trial.
Do you hear, Shan Wu, in the president's public comments in support of Manafort, in addition to his many public comments criticizing the special counsel Robert Mueller, do you hear the president there possibly laying the groundwork for a pardon?
I think he's certainly expressing his opinion that he approves of Manafort kind of holding tough in the president's view of the world. He has not seemed as though he needs any preparation to issue a pardon. I mean, he'd probably issue it by tweet in the middle of the night. I think it's interesting what may be going through Manafort's mind at this point as he kind of makes this transformation from someone who absolutely was going to fight to slowly considering the possibility of guilty plea. It's a lot of pressure, and it's a very painful transformation that has to go on for a person in that position.
No question, Shan Wu. John Dean, thanks very much for joining us tonight.